Age 5, the first hand you reach for. When you are 5, love has no name yet. It's just a feeling. The warm shape of your mother's coat when she picks you up from somewhere loud. The way your father's hand swallows yours at the crosswalk. You don't know it's love. You just know that when those hands let go, the world gets a little colder. So you reach back. Always. You climb into laps that are tired. You hand crayon drawings to people who barely look at them. You learn early that love is a thing you give first, hoping it gets returned. And most of the time it does. So you start to believe, quietly, without words, that if you're sweet enough, if you're good enough, if you laugh at the right moments, the people you love will stay close. You don't yet know the word for what you're doing. You just know it works. For now. Age 6, the first time you were not chosen. It happens at recess. Two captains pick teams, one name at a time, and you stand there with your hands in your pockets, smiling like it doesn't matter. You get picked second to last. The kid picked last cries, and you feel relieved that it isn't you, then immediately ashamed for feeling relieved. That night, you don't tell anyone. You eat your dinner, you laugh at your sister's joke. But somewhere, very quietly, you make a promise to yourself. Next time, be better. Be funnier, be faster. Be the kind of kid people want on their team. You don't know it yet, but you've just discovered the engine that will drive most of your 20s. The fear of being the last one chosen. The conviction that love must be earned. 5 years old and the world has already taught you its first hard lesson. Not everyone wants you back. Age 14. The first crush that hollowed you. Her name doesn't matter. What matters is the way the hallway tilts when she walks past, and the 8 hours you spend rehearsing one sentence you never get to say. You learn the geography of her schedule. You take longer routes between classes for the chance of a hello. You laugh too loud when her friends are nearby, hoping the sound carries. And then one Tuesday, you see her holding hands with someone else. Someone taller. Someone whose name is easier to say. And you discover a new kind of pain. Not sharp, not loud, just a slow kind of dimming, like a light bulb learning it's not the sun. You go home, you don't eat dinner, you tell your mom you're tired. And in the dark of your room, you listen to a song on repeat and decide, with the seriousness only a 14-year-old can muster, that you will never let anyone matter that much again. You will, of course, many times. Age 15. The friend who didn't stay. He was the closest thing you had to a brother. You spent 1,000 afternoons in his basement, eating cereal out of the box and inventing inside jokes that no one else found funny. You thought it would be like that forever. Then his family moved 3 states away, and forever turned out to be 96 days long. At first you texted constantly, then weekly, then on birthdays, then not at all. And one summer you realized you couldn't quite remember the sound of his laugh, and you cried in your car about a person who was still alive. Nobody warned you that this was love too, the friendships you don't survive, that you can lose someone without anyone dying, that the ache of a slow drift is heavier than the ache of a clean ending. 15 years old and you've added a second lesson. Love isn't only romance. Sometimes it wears sneakers and shows up with a basketball, and sometimes it just stops showing up at all. Age 21, the first time. Someone set it back. You meet her in a class neither of you wanted to take. She has paint on her sleeve and a laugh that sounds like a window opening. For 3 months, every conversation is a small miracle. You memorize her coffee order. You rearrange your schedule to walk her home. And one Thursday night, in a kitchen that smells like garlic and rain, she says it first. I love you. And you stand there, frozen, and you say it back. And you mean it more than you've ever meant anything. For a few weeks, you walk around the world like someone unlocked a new color. Everything tastes better. Songs you used to hate make sense. You think, finally, this is the thing the world has been hiding. You're 21 years old and you have figured it out. You will be wrong, but you don't know that yet. And honestly, that's the best part. Age 22. The first heartbreak that reshapes you. It ends in a coffee shop, which feels like a cliche until it's happening to you. She says she still loves you. She says it's just bad timing. She says all the things that are supposed to soften the blow, but only sharpen it. You walk to your car. You sit in the driver's seat for 45 minutes without turning the key. You don't know what to do with your hands. For weeks, food has no taste. You forget to call your mother. You sleep too much, then not at all. And every song on every playlist is suddenly, inexplicably about her. This is the first time loss is bigger than your body, and it scares you. You don't know yet that you'll survive this. You just know that every minute is a minute. That breathing is a thing you have to remember to do. 22 years old and love has finally taken something from you. You will spend the next decade trying not to let it ever do that again. Age 23, the wall you quietly build. After her, you start dating like a project manager. 3 months, 4 months, 6. You keep the surface fun and the deep parts locked. You laugh easily. You leave first. You pride yourself on being chill, on being cool with whatever, on never being the one who texts back too fast. Friends say you're killing it. They envy you. And in the quiet of your apartment, when the door closes behind whoever it was tonight, you feel a kind of clean, empty satisfaction. You think, this is healing. This is growth. You are protecting yourself. What you don't notice is the slow, careful unlearning of how to be known. Each casual goodbye is a small muscle you're letting atrophy. You're 23. You think you're winning, and technically, you are. Just not at the game you actually want to win. Age 31, the one who stayed long enough to hurt. You don't mean to fall in love again. It happens slowly like weather. Her name isn't, well, that doesn't matter either. What matters is that she is patient. She waits out your moods. She doesn't flinch when you tell her about the wall. She moves into your apartment with 2 boxes of books and a houseplant, and for a year you are happier than you remember being. And then, somewhere in the second year, the small things start to add up. The way you forget her birthday plans, the way she stops asking about your day, the fights that aren't really about dishes. You both try. You go to therapy. You try date nights. You try silence. And one Sunday morning, she sits across from you with 2 cups of cold coffee and says, very gently, I don't think we make each other better anymore. And the worst part is that you know she's right. 31 years old and you've finally lost the kind of love you'd let in, which is heavier somehow than losing the kind you held at arm's length. Age 33, the loneliness that surprised you. You move into a smaller place. You cook for one. You learn that loneliness in your 30s is different from loneliness in your 20s. It's quieter, more patient, like a roommate who never leaves. Your friends are getting married. Your inbox fills with save the dates. You go to the weddings. You give the toasts. You leave the receptions early because the slow songs are unbearable. You start to wonder if you missed your window, if love is something you should have figured out by now. You date a few people. None of them stick. You blame yourself, then them, then yourself again. And one night, scrolling through old photos, you see her face, the one from 21, and you barely recognize either of you. You're 33. You're not broken. You're just becoming someone you didn't plan to be. And no one has prepared you for how lonely that is. Age 40. Love that doesn't look like a movie. By 40, you have stopped expecting love to arrive in slow motion. There are no airports. There are no rainstorms. There is instead a woman you met at a friend's barbecue who texts you on a Tuesday and asks if you want to get tacos. And you do. And then you do again the next week, and the week after that. There is no fireworks moment. There is just Tuesday tacos, and then Saturday hikes, and then a toothbrush at her place. And one morning you wake up and realize you have been quietly, undramatically building a life with someone for over a year. You tell her you love her in the kitchen while she's making eggs, and she says, yeah, I know, and hands you a plate. And you laugh because it's not the love story you used to want. It's better. It is the love story of a man who finally stopped auditioning. 40 years old, and you're learning that the loudest love is rarely the deepest one. Age 42, the family you did not expect. Her son is 7. He doesn't trust you at first, and you don't blame him. You don't try to be his father. You try to be a person he can rely on. You go to his soccer games. You learn the names of the Pokemon. You let him beat you at Mario Kart, then stop letting him, because he asks you to stop. And one Saturday morning, while you are flipping pancakes, he comes into the kitchen and hugs you around the waist for no reason at all. And you stand there with the spatula in your hand and feel something break open in your chest that you didn't know was closed. You realize with a quiet kind of awe that you have become someone's grown-up. That love in your 40s is less about being chosen and more about being relied on. 42 years old, and your definition of family has finally widened to include the people who chose you back. Age 50, the friends who became your roots. The phone calls start to thin out. Some friends drift, some get sick. One, the one you've known since you were 23, calls you on a Wednesday afternoon and tells you, voice flat, that the scan came back wrong. You drive across the state that weekend. You sit in his living room and you don't say much. You make him laugh once, and it's the proudest moment of your year. You realize, sitting in that quiet house, that the friendships that survived your 30s are now the deepest love you have. Deeper in some ways than the romantic ones. They have seen you fail. They have seen you small. They love you anyway. You start calling people you haven't called in years. You stop letting birthdays slip past. You learn, late but not too late, that love is mostly maintenance. That the people you keep are the people you choose again and again on the ordinary Tuesdays. 50 years old, and you are finally tending the garden you used to take for granted. Age 52, loving your parents before they go. Your dad is slower now. He repeats stories. He forgets the punchlines to jokes he's told you 100 times. And one weekend, helping him fix a leaking faucet, you watch his hands, the same hands that held yours at the crosswalk 47 years ago, shake just slightly as he tries to turn a wrench. And you don't say anything. You just take the wrench, gently, and finish the job. Later in the car, you cry without warning, and you don't fully understand why. You start visiting more. You ask the questions you've been saving. You record his voice on your phone, just in case. Your mother notices and squeezes your hand at the kitchen table without saying anything. 52 years old, and you are learning the hardest version of love, the kind where you start saying goodbye before anyone is gone. The kind that asks you to be present for the slow leaving of the people who first taught you what love was. Age 62, the long, quiet marriage. You and her have been together for 22 years now. You can read her face from across a room. You know which sigh means tired and which sigh means worried. The conversations you have at 62 are not the conversations you had at 40. There are fewer questions, more silences, but the silences are full. You sit on the porch in the evenings. You drink your coffee. You watch the same hummingbird visit the same feeder. Sometimes you don't speak for an hour, and then she'll say something. Small, ordinary, and you'll laugh because she always knows the right small thing to say. The kid is grown. He calls every Sunday. He has his own kids now, and you are someone's grandfather, which still feels like a costume you're trying on. You realize slowly that the great love of your life turned out to be a quiet one. 62 years old, and you understand now that romance was never the point. Companionship was. Age 70, what love actually was. You are 70. Your hair is white. The mole is still there, just below the left corner of your mouth, the one your mother used to kiss when she tucked you in. You sit on a bench in the late afternoon light and let your mind wander, and what surprises you is what comes back. Not the grand moments, not the kisses, not the I love yous. What comes back is your father's hand at the crosswalk. The friend who moved away when you were 15. The girl who said it first in a kitchen that smelled like garlic. The boy hugging your waist while you held a spatula. The hummingbird at the feeder. Your wife's hand in yours in the dark for 22 years. You realize quietly that love was not a thing you had to chase. It was a thing that was always trying to find you in small, ordinary forms. and your only job was to be still enough to notice. You were not always still enough, but sometimes you were, and those times, it turns out, were the whole point. 70 years old, and you are finally full.